Hi everybody, and welcome to Resin Together. Today we're going to be unmolding this beautiful pyramid that we've made. I hope it turns out. This is the first pyramid I've made on purpose. I've done a lot of them with extra resin, but this one I actually designed and built. So we're going to unveil it today, see what it looks like. Stick with the video, you'll see how we made it and all the steps that we went through. This is Resin Together, where we work together to make beautiful resin art. Hey everybody, so we are working on our pyramid today. Going to be putting together pyramid stacked layers, probably as you've seen, putting inside of it kind of like a diorama or a little thing encasing something in that. So we're going to start off with our first pour, which will be the very tip of the pyramid. For that we are using the floral resin from the epoxy resin store, because it does do a deep pour and it is crystal clear when it does that, just like water, and it pours very easily, so no bubbles. And the top layer of the pyramid is gold, and we are using the Mayspring Golden Labradite. Mayspring Golden Labradite, that'll be our first layer. I've already mixed it up and I've got it in our cup. Nice gold color to top off the pyramid, because we have to obviously build it from the point up. And then before we pour it, I'm just gonna a light mist of 99% alcohol. Make sure it gets all the way down into the very tip, because we want everything to flow nicely. That's the other reason why I'm using this floral resin, because it will pour down to that point very nicely. So just gonna take it as much as I can to the center and just start pouring it in, trying to get it so I don't get any color where it doesn't need to be. There we go. I think that'll be enough. And then we will let that cure. It's going to take probably about a day to cure before we can put another layer on. So we're just going to let that go. And we will be back when it is time for the next layer. Hey everybody, so we are back. Our layer of gold resin has cured pretty good in the bottom of our mold, so we're ready to keep going to the next step. So what I have is about 4 ounces of thin pour epoxy, because we're going to make thin layers with this one to do the next one. So we're going to make the sky of our thing, and then from there we're going to keep building, and you'll see what I do with that. So we have the Busan blue from Eye Candy. A nice blue, I think, will make a dark upper sky. If you want the Pinata Baja blue alcohol inks to make a more transparent blue to go on top, and those will kind of meld together a little bit. And then we have these, which will be our clouds. Now, if you don't recognize what this is, I wouldn't be surprised. This is ivory soap. So you can do a whole bar, but you're going to make a lot. I did a little 1/2-inch slice off the bar in the microwave for about 20 or 30 seconds. Just keep an eye on it. It'll start swelling up. And then whenever you've gotten to the point you want, that's where you stop. So this is going to be our clouds, and we'll work with these. So this is the first time I've tried doing stuff like this. So if it doesn't turn out, we'll learn from it. But as I promised, we'll always do it together so that you can learn from my mistakes and my successes. So let's get started. So first I'm going to mix up our blue resin, the Busan blue, and get that into our mold. And I'm going to use a decent amount, because I want it to be, I don't want it to be transparent. I want it to be a solid layer between the gold cap, if you will, and the background. So let me get this mixed up. Okay, so there is our color for the sky. A little bit darker than I hoped it would turn out, but we're going to use the alcohol ink, so I'm thinking that it's going to offset each other. So let me pour this in there very gently. The other side is we'll have a nice happy sky, so that's always to be enjoyed. Alright, just a little bit of squirt of our alcohol to get our bubbles coming out. We might have to do another squirt in just a second, but I'm going to give that a chance to evaporate off. So let me put my Baja Blue alcohol ink in. Let me give it a good shake. You always want to remember to give your alcohol inks a shake because the pigment can sink to the bottom sometimes. You know, make sure you're getting the full effect, not just alcohol. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We'll start there and see how it does. Alcohol ink tends to lose some of its color, you know, as it goes. So it'll lighten up a little bit, I think. Remember, mica powders are almost always translucent to opaque. Alcohol ink does not get opaque. It will stay clear and see-through. So sometimes you need to use a little bit more than you think you're gonna need to get the effect you're looking for. All right, so nice. We're not going to use a lot of this. I know I mixed up more resin than I needed. I figured I'd rather have a little too much than run out. So we're going to let this sit and get some of the bubbles out. And then we're going to look at our blue. How we doing? A little squirt, help with the surface tension, bring some of the bubbles to the top. Because we're using the thin set epoxy or the thin pour, the bubbles aren't going to come out as easy once we layer it, so we want to make sure we give it plenty of time for these to come out and get rid of, so that we don't have too much going on in there. Just a little bit more. Just looking at the side and saw our depth, so I think we can handle a little bit more. Now some of you are going to say I'm pouring too deep, which you are correct, strictly speaking. It's supposed to be about 1/4 to 1/2 inch. We're going to push that. Now the reason I'm doing that is this is winter, of course, for us right now in the United States. And even though I live in Florida, it's still kind of cool. It's like 48 this morning. So the house is around 68, 70. So it's cool enough in the house that it will help offset some of that heat, because remember, resin will go through a flash cure when it gets too hot, but the heat builds more heat, which builds more heat, which builds more heat. So if you're starting pretty cool already, then it's less likely to happen. So flash cure is not a fast and cut rule. If you do this, it's always going to happen. It's more of a how much heat did it start with, how much heat is building, and then you go from there. So I would say if it was warm and in summertime, I would not try this. But being that it's Florida in the winter time and it's really cool in the house, I don't keep it above 68 in the winter, then I think we're okay. So we'll keep an eye on the temperature if it gets warm today, but it's not supposed to. So I think we'll be okay. So I'm gonna break apart little pieces of my ivory, and I'm just gonna set them right in the top. And like I said, I didn't know how much it would make. I've never tried this, but it definitely made more than I anticipated. So I'm just taking off pieces. It is very fragile, so it's breaking apart real easy. Almost wish I had some tweezers to help, because that would definitely help. So we're just gonna take some of this, just a few little pieces, little happy clouds to go into our work here. Happy clouds of sunlight, Bob Ross. There we go. Let's see, maybe one big one right there. Alright, and we'll see how that looks once we pour some more resin. Now I'm gonna use my alcohol ink, the Baja Blue. It's more of a green blue, so I'm not sure I'm happy with it, but Just gonna push it down the sides like a squeegee because my the resins were mixing, so I poured it down the side to help it along. We may have messed up this layer. We'll see how it turns out. Like I said, it's my first time trying these things. I probably should have let the dark blue with the clouds in it cure a little bit before I did more. But live and learn, and we learn together. So we'll see how this turns out, and then we'll come back and we'll keep building layers. The next layer will be a clear layer to give some sky, and then we actually have where put them? Some dragons. Yes, I'm gonna make a dragon, a little fairy tale land. So some little plastic dragons that I think we're gonna try putting in the resin, and then below that they'll be standing on some ground, maybe some grass, a tree, something like that. So we'll do that in there, and then from there some more layers that I think will look really good. So we're looking forward to that. We're gonna hang it in there and go from there. All right, so we'll come back in a little while. For a few days for me, a few minutes for you, or a few seconds, and then we'll continue building this. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Our pyramid has set up. It's nice and firm now. We have our little pieces of cloud in there from the ivory soap, and so today we're going to work on pouring the next layer, which is going to be kind of our open sky, open air, if you want to put it that way. I have taken some sandpaper to the blue and sanded it just a little bit because it is fully cured, to make sure that everything stuck well. So I did do that to make sure that it would adhere to the next layer. We just dump out a few little particles of the soap that have come off when I was sanding. Because it's cured, we're not going to get a good chemical bond between the layers, so we definitely want a good mechanical bond, as the scratches will give it something to hold on to as it cures. So I am using, again, the Epoxy Resin Store's Floral Epoxy. It is a 3-to-1 resin, so it mixes very, very easily, pours very, very easily, and cures crystal clear. It'll take a little while, and then once that is starting to set up, we will introduce some little dragons into our resin. To put them in upside down like that, we'll rig something up to hold them in place as it starts to cure, and we'll put that in, and then we'll build on top of that. So that's the plan. So right now, real quick, we're just going to pour our resin in. Now what I did was I use a calculator for my resin. It tells me how much to use. The calculator I use is at resinobsession.com. Very useful. They have it for square and rectangle, and also for circle. So I put in there the average distance across for how high I want to go, and I said that I wanted about 2 inches. Its calculation said it needed about 13.58 ounces. I rounded down to 12 because that's easier to mix for a 3-to-1 resin. And so we've got that mixed up. We're going to pour that, and then we're going to let that set. Just going to pour it very gently down the side. I don't want to dislodge any of the soap, but if I can help it, and anything that does come out, I'm actually going to fish out the pieces so they don't cause any issues. The good part about this 3-to-1 resin is it is rather runny and watery, which is great because it's going to release our bubbles very easily. There we go. And we won't have any issues with that. Let me just grab a popsicle stick, and I'm going to gently push. Some of the soap came off, and that's going to happen, I guess. It's my first time using it, but so I'm just gonna kind of pull those up the side and pull them out. There we go. All right, and I will keep working on getting these little floaties out. Next time I'll remember to do a little more vigilance. I dumped it out a couple times, but the fine dust just kind of stuck until the resin floated it up. So I have to keep that in mind for next time. I'm going to scoot this just a little bit closer so I can push that. Those look like air bubbles. So I'll just use a little bit of isopropyl alcohol to spray those as they come up over the next 10-15 minutes, however long that takes. And we will be back when it's time to suspend our dragon in there. I'm going to work on something, like I said, to kind of hold it, maybe some fishing line or something like that. And then we will go from there. So we will see you in just a second for you guys, maybe a day or so for me while this starts to set up. Alright, so we have our resin. It's starting to set up. It's still a little bit jiggly, but it's good. We've tied this to a chopstick and then around the wing and legs. The big thing is you want to find a way to tie it so that it will hang in the position that you want it in. That's very important. Alright, so we have that in there. We're just going to let that set up, and then as soon as it is set up enough, we will come back and be ready to move on to the next step. Hey everybody, so we are back, as you can see, with our pyramid. We made some progress. I had some trouble with the video, so some of the steps that we did didn't quite get recorded, so I apologize that there's a gap. So all I did was I took the string, the leather holding the dragon, and untied it and then filled it up, so we have resin just barely. One of his feet isn't covered, but the others are covered with resin, so that was just clear resin. You didn't miss much. So now I've taken some shells and scattered on it. Remember, we're building from the top to the bottom, so everything needs to be upside down. And so I've done that, and I've mixed up some more of my my floral resin, and now I'm just gonna put some sand in to kind of give this the look of having a bottom. Just gonna give it a nice layer of sand all the way around, and I don't care that the shells are gonna be covered because I want them to be. Remember, we're building the bottom, so it's okay that we're gonna cover them. Nice layer of sand. It has the added benefit of helping to hold the shells down. Experience has taught me that these shells love to float. So we definitely don't want that. Just gonna give it a little bit of a smooth out. Doesn't have to be perfect because I'm gonna use a dark brown, almost flood coat for the very bottom. So, but I just want to try to get it smoothed out a little bit. I'm actually going to break it. There we go. Smooth it out just a little bit so that it's not quite so hard to get that top coat flat. That's my biggest concern. So just gonna give it a nice smooth layer. There we go. And then finally we're going to pour our resin. Again, just the floral resin I mixed up. Let's see, about 9 ounces. So just gonna give this a nice pour. There we go. Now it's gonna seep, bubbles and all that kind of stuff. As you see, it's percolating through the sand, percolating, whatever you want to say. So we're just gonna give that some time to work in and get into the layer. So I'm not gonna make you watch that, but we'll come back when this is done to add that last 1/4 inch layer, 1/8 inch layer, whatever it's gonna end up being, of just normal coating resin to give it a nice solid colored bottom. I'll probably use something like I have a midnight black or a black diamond color that is black diamond, or I have some bronze. I think the bronze might look good too. So we'll do something with that, and we'll see what that looks like as soon as it's done. So for you guys, a few seconds, for me, a few days. And we'll be back as soon as that's time for the next step. Hey everybody, so we are back with our final layer on our pyramid here. We put the sand in, we have this layer. It's almost fully tacky. If you push it, it'll depress, but that's perfect because we want to make a good bond. So I've mixed up 6 ounces of our premium resin from the epoxy resin store, and then I have the black diamond pigment powder from Black Diamond. This is a nice dark black that I think will make a good base layer, a little bit of sparkle to it, as you can see. So I'm going to mix that in, and we will get this ready. Since this is the base layer, I'm going to be generous with the amount of resin powder, or sorry, mica powder that I use, so that I make sure we get a good dark dense layer. So let me mix this up. Alright, there we go. Got that nice and done. And so now we're just going to pour this in. Go. You want to get it as close to the top of the mold as possible without going over. That's the big thing. So we got a little bit left, but that's as full as I want to take it. Now we have bubbles, so I'm going to take my isopropyl alcohol in a spritz bottle and just give that a good spray. That will pop the bubbles. Now my resin was cold when I mixed it, so I know I'm going to have more bubbles than usual because I mixed in a lot of bubbles. The black will hide that, but I still want to try to pop them as they come to the surface, or else I'll get an uneven texture. So I'm going to come back probably every 5 or 10 minutes or so and pop some bubbles just to make sure that we have a nice smooth finish on the bottom. Get this little hair out of there. There we go. So I will keep doing that, and then for you guys, we'll be back as soon as we're ready to mold this giant pyramid. It's been a lot of work and a lot of resin, so I'm hoping it'll turn out okay. One more spritz. There we go. Alright, we'll see you as soon as we're ready for the next to unmold it. Hey everybody, so it's time to unmold our pyramid. It's been several days curing. Our bottom layer got nice and hard. I went ahead and took it out of the mold. Just kind of popped it out. It came right out, luckily. Sometimes they stick. So let's start taking it out and see how this turned out. There we go. Well, we definitely got some bubbles. So lessons learned on that. I knew this layer I poured kind of thick. This center layer here, so it got some bubbles when it cured, so that's okay, can't help that. Learn for the next time, but overall I think it looks pretty cool. Turned out pretty good. The clouds didn't do what I hoped for, but you can kind of see them. But overall I think the effect is pretty cool. The dragon definitely stands out in there, as you can see. So I think overall it turned out really well. It's definitely a starting point. We'll learn some lessons. We'll try some more things as we move forward. Try not to have quite so many bubbles. And then the one thing I definitely can see is you can see the striations of my layers. So I need to do a better job next time. You can see them, especially in the way the light moves. I need to do a better job next time of pouring sooner, so that the layers don't cure quite so much and they merge a little bit. But not bad for our first try. It turned out pretty good. It's got nice color, and so we're going to try some more like this and see how they turn out. I want to thank you all for being with us today. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a like. That way I know what kind of content to keep making that you guys enjoy watching. If you want to see more videos, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can see them as they come out. Most of all, I just want to thank you for being with us today as we resin together.